Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of A Barista in Quarantine, or Morgan Makes Things. I haven't totally decided what we're calling this yet. Anyway, since the winter months are closing in and the chance to actually sit down inside a cafe is very much not a reality for most of us, I thought we'd explore a series of traditional and/or popular coffee drinks that you can easily make at home. So today, if you didn't see the title, we're making Vietnamese Egg Coffee, which is something I was recently introduced to and really wanted to try making on my own. Alright, so the first thing you're going to need is an electric whisk. You can do it by hand. Highly don't recommend it, but you can do it by hand if you want to. Next thing you're going to need is some sort of mug. I recommend a glass one because I really think it's cool to see this drink in its layers, but whatever works for you. Next off, you're going to need a coffee brewer. Traditionally, this is made with a Vietnamese Fin coffee brewer, but a French press will do in a pinch, and since we're making it at home, that's what I have. Sweetened condensed milk is going to be one of the 2 food ingredients you need, and you also need 2 eggs, or 1 if you're making a smaller portion. First thing I'm going to do here is preheat my mug. I'm just pouring hot water into it, and I'm just going to set it to the side, let that glass get nice and hot, don't mind my cat here, and then when we need to use the mug, just going to dump that hot water out, and it'll be piping hot, ready for the coffee and mixture I'm going to pour on top. In case you missed it in one of my last videos, yes, this is our very adorable newly adopted kitten Maisie. She's 4 months old and loves the countertop, so we're just going to spend most of the time keeping her off of it. Next thing you're going to do is get your coffee started. I'm using a French press, as I mentioned before, because it's what I have on hand, but traditionally this is made with a Fin coffee maker. They're very nifty little almost pour-over type setups, and they're great. I'd like to order one myself, but for the moment we're using what we have on hand. Now, you can either start your coffee brewing right now, or you can wait a few moments. I chose to wait simply because my water wasn't up to temperature yet, but we're just going to get started on the next step. So you're going to want to open up that can of sweetened condensed milk, get your eggs ready, and probably get a spoon as well. Feel free to lick the top, condensed milk is delicious. Now, of note, we're only using the yolks of these eggs, not the whites. So use whatever method you're comfortable with, either that's a strainer or a kind of shell-to-shell method, and separate those two, putting the whites in somewhere where you're either going to save them or use them somewhere else, and then put the yolks in that bowl you're going to mix everything up in. Now that my water is up to temperature, I'm going to start pouring it in, get my French press all started because I'm going to be brewing that for about 4 to 5 minutes, and that's exactly how long I need to whip up the sweetened condensed milk and the egg mixture. Alright, now that that is just about done, I'm going to stick on the top, I'm going to set my timer and just leave that to the side as it brews. Alright, you're now going to need 2 whopping spoonfuls of sweetened condensed milk, using about 2 tablespoons here, give or take depending on your sweetness level. I like my drinks pretty sweet, and it was one of my first times making this, so I kind of opted for the sweeter side, just to kind of understand the level of sweetness it'd be at when mixed in with the egg. Next thing you're going to do is just whisk these 2 ingredients together. It's probably going to take between 3 to 4 minutes depending on the power of your whisk. You're looking for a much fluffier, creamier kind of custard-like texture and an overall lighter color. Now, when researching this recipe, I came across the helpful tip of putting a couple drops of the mixture in a glass of cold water. If it floats to the top, then you're pretty much good to go. So I gave that a try and look, there we go. It's floating. Probably good to go. Now, my coffee is done brewing and I'm going to plunge it and pour it into my mug. I dumped out the water that I was using to preheat and we're ready to go. Now I know the coffee looks a little light, it's just because of the harsh studio lighting I've got going on right now. Don't worry, it's a properly brewed cup of coffee. Now using a spatula, I'm just going to slowly spoon that egg and condensed milk mixture on top. Because of how much air was pulled into it during that whipping process, it'll float very, very nicely right on top of the coffee. You're going to be able to see that vast degree of separation between the coffee and the egg and condensed milk. Now you can drink this as 2 separate layers by sipping out the coffee from underneath the top layer. However, I decided to mix it together to kind of get the full effect of the drink. And even when I did this, you can still see that there's that solid layer on top of foam and egg and aerated condensed milk, and it looks absolutely delicious and decadent. All in all, I would 100% make this drink again. It's super easy to make, coming in at only around 5 minutes. You can easily make it in larger batches, and it's full of ingredients that I either found in my kitchen or at the store. Now, in my description below, I am going to link a couple different videos about Vietnamese coffee, as well as a couple different sources talking about the history of it. It's a fascinating drink, and there's a lot of really cool stuff that goes on with it, including the use of Robusta coffee and the use of Fin coffee drippers. I'll definitely be buying some more myself to try to make this drink in a more accurate fashion, but for now this is what we have, and it's pretty delicious. Anyways, I'll see you guys next week. Have a great day, everyone.